Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore. Boggy Talk is recorded on Boggy Bayou in Niceville, Florida, and is hosted by Justin Wyatt and James Ross, pastors at Church on Bayshore. We typically want every matter of faith and life to have crystal clear answers, but it isn't always that easy. This podcast digs in to help Christians think with a kingdom mentality about topics that sometimes get muddy and bog us down. So let's dive in.
Hey, and welcome to Boggy Talk, a very, very, very merry special Boggy Talk, because it's our last Boggy Talk of the year.
And it's Christmas week.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas comes this time each year.
Christmas comes this time each year.
That's the dumbest lyric.
That is, yeah. You're like, really? It does?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thanks, Beach Boys.
Is that the Beach Boys?
They sing that one. That maybe somebody else does, but I think maybe it was original with them.
I think a lot of people have done like every Christmas song.
Because
when is the Bayshore Christmas album coming out?
We'll be working on that when the funding comes through.
Sponsors.
There you go. Sponsors.
Boggy
Talk sponsors can be. We can funnel those funds to Bayshore Worship.
Yeah, we got
Christmas
a while before
album.
Bayshore does that, since we're still in our moldy offices.
Moldy.
We're moving on up.
Yeah, I feel like I still can't smell. We're moving
right back to the same spot. But
in some non-molded offices.
That's right.
That'll be
great.
Merry
I'm not
Christmas.
in my molded office.
That's
so
right. Your office has been condemned. Yeah,
yes.
if you didn't know.
That's a true story.
It really is. It had like tape across it that said caution.
I moved into the office and it soon became condemned.
So
you can figure out why.
Condemnation. No condemnation. But it's the last Boggy Talk of the year. Next week, we're taking the week off, and then we'll kick back off the first week of January with talking about the new year, kind of looking back and looking ahead. But that is looking ahead. We're talking about this right now, talking about traditions of Christmas. Everyone has things they do every year at Christmas, and we have our own traditions. And when you start thinking about traditions, you kind of realize that some traditions are a little weird. So what are your family's traditions?
Okay,
what is your family do?
The things we do pretty much every year. So we actually just mixed something up.
Ooh.
So this is a
new tradition.
Yeah, we, on Thanksgiving Day evening, my kids get Christmas pajamas because my wife realized we give them to them on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And then they're done.
Yeah.
Like wearing
So that requires some really advanced planning.
We had to, Christy. Anyway, so that's our new one. Then we decorate the house the day after Thanksgiving, because it is wrong to decorate your house before Thanksgiving.
We did.
Okay. Well, you went out of town, so that counts. That counts.
Why.
That's an exception. So, and look at all these adjustments to tradition already.
Asterisk.
And then, I don't know beyond that. Up until Christmas, there's just a tradition, other than there's kind of the same parties and same things. And then Christmas Eve, we're here doing that. And then Christy usually makes like soups and cheeses. And I don't think she makes the cheese.
She makes the cheeses. That's impressive.
So
she
there's brie, so she does something with that.
Does she bake the brie? Pour honey over it and bake it.
She does, yeah. So I know nothing about cooking, so she does that. Somehow our laundry gets done too. I don't know how that happens as well.
Magic.
And actually, she made me do laundry recently because I wasn't turning my stuff inside the right way. But that's okay. It was a good life. It was good. She got me. And then Christmas morning, just our family. The kids all get. I can't say that in case they listen to the Boggy Talk. So anyway, and then.
What are they getting?
Because they might this week, because I'll be with them. And then, my parents come over. Then we do Christmas with her parents like 2 days later. We do a lot of chilling that week because we're off here.
Yeah.
Nobody really needs us.
And December is just insane. Like, for everyone, and then you add in all the extra stuff with extra stuff for worship, and then Christmas Eve and rehearsals for us, and then
you guys do some flashlight thing you talked about last year, right?
This is probably the most random tradition that we have, but also fun. So Christy started this a long time ago. So Christmas Eve, we have Christmas Eve services and then we get home, and it gets later and later every year because we have extra services now.
Yeah.
But we go home, kids get on their Christmas pajamas, and we always pretend like, well, you guys get to open one Christmas present and Christmas Eve, and we always pretend that it's not pajamas, and they get real dramatic about it. And then it's pajamas, and they pretend to be surprised. They put on their pajamas, and then we lock them all in a room. For about 10 minutes, and then we do a peppermint hunt. So Christy and I buy huge bags of peppermints, and we hide them everywhere in the house. And then we turn off all the lights. They get flashlights, and they have to go find them all. And it's great, and it's hilarious, and it's fun. So that's
imagine though, if you were able to enjoy those Christmas pajamas for a full month.
I know. You kind of had me thinking.
See, this is what my job has been here for the last 40 years. I see how you do things. Yeah. But imagine if you did it this way.
That would be fun. It would require some, and almost every year I'm like, let's just not do pajamas. They're kind of over the pajamas thing. But our kids will wear their Christmas pajamas all year. So I think giving them on Christmas, they'll still wear them because you do you, boo. You do you. Maybe we'll give them to them early. I don't know. But I think Christy ordered some. Maybe. I don't know. That's her job to do that. And so she's going to do that. Yeah. And we do like Christmas Eve. You
still have a job description for Christy?
Yeah, that's her job. That's like the one thing. You do the Christmas pajamas, and then we figure out the rest. We just tag.
You hear that, Christy? Justin said that's the one thing you do.
One thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I just said you do that. Whatever. We do lasagna. That's our Christmas meal. Yeah. But we do it on Christmas, for lunch on Christmas Eve, because I usually leave in the afternoon, and I'm gone all Christmas Eve.
Yes, you are.
And then
Thank you.
Yes, you too. And then
we were talking about people taking off in our staff, and I'm like, except you and me, Justin. You can't.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the presents on Christmas morning, and we make homemade cinnamon rolls, breakfast casserole. Our traditions form around food.
Good place for traditions.
That's right. And homemade whipped cream, that's just
that's a great point. My wife and I were just talking about Thanksgiving, and she was talking about somebody not doing their traditional Thanksgiving and getting to eat what they want, and I was like, that's just sentimental. You're being, whatever. But that's part of it. Is tradition starved because it's good, right? We eat this food because it's good, and it's not a food that we would normally eat because it might involve a lot of preparation or whatever.
Right.
And it tastes good. It makes us feel a certain way.
It's the best.
So tradition is not bad. Right. I didn't even mention that the first thing we do when the kids wake up before anything is we read through Luke 2.
Yeah.
So
way to keep it about Jesus.
Yeah, no, really. We really are hey, we're going to slow down. Mom and dad are going to get their coffee. Coffee and Jesus, even though I hate that t-shirt.
And what we do at our house to intentionally slow things down is that Santa does, the presents are from us, and they're all wrapped. So there's no coming downstairs and wow, there's nope. They're all wrapped. You can't play until we.
So we don't do Santa because Santa and Satan are spelled with the same letters. So we actually don't do Santa, but we're not.
That's
into
a different conversation.
Yeah, that is another conversation. But anyway, yeah. So I'm thankful that my children will remember the first thing we do on Christmas morning is read Luke 2. Well, mom and dad get coffee, then we read Luke 2. Traditions are good because they teach us something. They make us remember things. There's something that can be carried on into the next generation. So, when we make fun of tradition, we in no way, and so this is getting into bigger than just Christmas, and I would say we've been in he is greater in religion, he is greater in tradition.
Yeah.
And really, I came to a church that was steeped in a lot of tradition, had a lot of history, and we've made a significant number of changes to move forward. So I think this is an issue that is much bigger than even Christmas, But so let's, look at the whole Thanksgiving thing. And I don't think you're wrong because, you're not giving your kids Christmas pajamas on things. But the reason we did that is because our kids do like to wear them this time of the year. And so thinking through it, we're like, okay, they can enjoy this during the Christmas season. And I think that when we think about our traditions, we just kind of have to ask, is this what's best now?
Yeah,
because
exactly. Is this
times change?
Yeah, because traditions, we can make fun of them, and there really are some very weird traditions. I think specifically around the holidays, but really every culture has its traditions. Yeah. And I remember when I lived in Korea, there were things that culturally where there were traditions that to me as an outsider like made no sense. Like I really don't. And then as I dug in and understood like, oh, this is historically why they do this. It made more sense. But one of the things that I always reminded myself of when things didn't make sense is that I was like, this doesn't make sense cross culturally, but in the United States at Christmas time, we chop down trees, bring them in our house, and decorate them with the lights. That's kind of culturally, if you think about it, it's kind of a random thing. Like, why do we do that? And you get into the historicity of it, and you realize, okay, there's some meaning behind it. But you realize like every tradition has its root.
No, just kidding.
Every tradition has an origin, and the thing about a lot of our traditions is we don't actually even know the origin.
You're saying Christmas tree tradition has its roots?
It does have its roots.
See
and
what
they
you did
are
there?
Evergreen.
Yeah, ours is fake. So
yeah,
okay.
we do artificial too. Because I just can't clean
You
up
just
all
sound
the
more
needles.
manly than you went down and chop it down.
Well, growing up, that was a tradition.
Yeah.
There was a Christmas tree farm like a mile and a half down the road from my parents' house.
Yeah.
And every Friday after Thanksgiving, we went and chopped down our own Christmas tree.
I don't know if there are Christmas tree farms in Florida.
I don't know.
They're hot.
There are, because I just read that there are Christmas tree farms in all 50 states, including Hawaii and Alaska.
Oh, okay. Then there's definitely in Florida.
So, I mean, why did I say including Hawaii and Alaska when I said all 50 states? But I feel like
because I don't recognize
that's
them
right.
either. Yeah.
But so traditions can be great. Why? Because they can keep us rooted. I think they can keep us grounded.
Yeah.
Where we can go wrong with tradition is where we believe that tradition is what's necessary to have any meaning.
Yeah.
I read a quote a long time ago, and it as we age, this is why I think a lot of as we age, we tend to appreciate traditions a little more as we get older, and that's because as we age and how we operate in our brains. The older we get, we tend to operate from memory, and the younger we are, we operate from imagination. So, we operate from imagination, and as we get older, we operate from memory. And those traditions, actually, it's not just that we like them; it's because psychologically and mentally, they're actually comforting to us because they're familiar. I'm a creative person. I just want to always live from imagination with a little tradition mixed in. But I think when it comes to Christmas specifically in tradition, what we have to recognize is like, let's create traditions for our families. And there are some traditions like for our Christmas Eve service, we will have candlelight, and that is a tradition. It's not necessarily so it's a symbolic thing.
Yeah.
Jesus is the light of the world. It's not in the Bible like that you have to have candles at Christmas. So it's not something that if we didn't do it, but it is very
We didn't
meaningful.
do it last year.
Yeah, because we had phones and it was 2020 and
we didn't want people blowing.
Blowing corona.
Spit.
Yeah, exactly.
Blowing corona all over people.
Blowing corona. But why are we doing the
in a church plan? That means a totally different thing.
Oh man.
Okay.
So oh man, woo!
Yeah.
But I think
if any of my Mosaic people listen,
like,
blowing Corona.
There he is. There's old James Ross.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think we have to always get back to the why, and then also to like so as a family.
Yeah.
Like, what traditions are we going to have? And recognize, like, other people are going to have traditions, and you don't have to have every tradition. Like, I think this is a time where people feel so much pressure to do everything and make everything so special. And I'm like, you know what? Like, decide what's important to you, roll with that, and don't feel the pressure to compare yourself to everyone else.
And it's nuanced. I feel like we said that word a lot this past couple months. So, like, I can't say, but here are clear principles about tradition. So, Christmas Eve service, we have to be clear that we share the gospel, that it's not assumed, because a lot of people are there. They're doing the Christmas Eve thing. We're going to talk about Jesus and who he is and not just the baby in the manger, because that's not who Jesus was. And he was that for a night. You know what I mean? Like, and it's significant
and did he really
that he
not cry?
Came that way. I think he cried. It's significant that he came that way. And I think Mary knew. But I think that it's significant that he came that way.
What a good song. What a good song.
But we have to say like why he came. And then in the candle lights, we don't just do the candles. We explain like, what that means symbolically, communion, we explain it. And I think so any traditions we do, we really have to make sure that we're continuing to educate on why we do those traditions, why they matter. And I think when we do that, we realize, okay, do they really matter that much or not, as we're doing that. And I think that keeps us having an open hand about them. And then I think we have to evaluate like, okay, if this culturally isn't working anymore, whether it's with our grandchildren now or it's, whatever we do, like, okay, do I need to say, hey, but this is so important because of the Bible? Or do I need to say, maybe I'll let go of some of these traditions? Like the Luke 2 thing, that's something I really want to emphasize to my children, to do with their children and all that. But
Yeah. And I think another piece of this is that, new seasons may require new traditions, like new seasons of life. And so I would say this, like, if you are, you're at the stage where you're becoming an empty nester, your kids are leaving, they are grown up, they are getting married, giving them the freedom to establish their traditions as a family is a huge gift. That is a present you can give to them. I think from my family, like we came, Christy's side of the family, there were traditions that were very important. And my side of the family, there weren't as many like traditions. And so as we get married, like we have to then figure out what is important to us. And, and then you kind of take the, when you're merging two, very different families, it's kind of like we get to like pick the best of both and decide what for our family. So I would say, if that's you, this can be really hard because I think a lot of people, especially this time of year, it's like, well, this is what we do. And if you find yourself saying, well, it's not Christmas if this, fill in the blank, like that might be like, I know what you're trying to say.
Or it's not church if.
Yeah.
Ooh, come on now.
Burn.
It's not worship if.
It's not worship if.
Yeah. But it's not church if Jesus ain't there. It ain't worship if Jesus ain't there. It ain't Christmas if Jesus isn't there.
Exactly.
I think we need to be careful.
Yeah. So new seasons may require new traditions. And that doesn't mean that we've lost any meaning. It just means that, hey, we're saying, how do we pass this on? And that's going to look different in every generation. I'm not there yet. And, so I think this way when my kids are there, but I really look forward to seeing what they decide, for Christmas, what's going to be their tradition. And, it's going to require a lot of adjustment and I might not handle that well. I'm going to try really hard to handle that well, but, just being free to give that gift to them.
For sure.
Just really deciding as a family, here's the non-negotiables about this and here's how we're going to express that in our own traditions. And that's really, as a faith family, we kind of really should be asking these same questions as well.
It's interesting because not even really thinking about the fact that we were talking about tonight, or talking about this today, sorry. Last night, I looked up the word sentimental because of a conversation I was having with my wife. And to be a sentimental person means that you are excessively prone to feelings of tenderness, sadness, or nostalgia. And I'm like, so that's not what everybody means when they say they're sentimental, but to be sentimental to that point is actually not healthy.
Right.
If you're excessively prone to feelings of tenderness, sadness, or nostalgia, it's okay to be prone to feelings of tenderness, mercy, maybe compassion, sadness, maybe just, a heart for what's lost. That's okay. Or even nostalgia, how things have been and all that and respect history, but to be excessively prone to that. And I do think there's some people that truly can't move on because of things that have happened in the past. And obviously when we think about issues of grief and all that, I want to be careful here because I don't think we move past. I just think we move forward.
Right.
And so that person who passed away, the things they brought to our life, the season of our life, it's still just a part of who we are.
Right.
But we have to keep moving forward with the commission. And I think this is where Christians have to realize my life must always be moving towards heaven, which means as I'm moving towards heaven, my life is bringing people towards heaven. So how am I passing on the gospel to the next generation of our church, of my family, of whatever it might be? And if we're not, because of our love for tradition, if we're not because of our reflection on the past, then we're really in an unhealthy place as a Christian. And we might be, and we might need help getting out of that.
Right.
But just to recognize, if I'm not moving forward, pressing forward to the goal, of Christ, if I'm not running the race in a way to win, then I'm in an unhealthy place.
And as you're saying that, it's made me think back to like the whole memory and imagination thing. Like having memories is good. Like to remember God's faithfulness in things is good. But like, don't we always want to be at a place, but there's more, like the imagination of here's what God can do. And I think, specific to traditions, it's like these things are good, but what if there's more? Like, what if, I think back to, when the Israelites, when they crossed the Jordan, they planted the rock Ebenezer, and it was a memorial of God's faithfulness, right? Like, that's a good thing. Like, this memorial, this altar of like, this is what God did. Let this be a remembrance. And so our traditions are a remembrance of what God's done. Like, they didn't worship the rock.
Yeah.
They worshiped God, and God is the one who delivers.
Yeah.
And so it's like with tradition, like let them point to the one who can do exceedingly more than all we ask or imagine.
Yeah.
And not like get stuck on like, this is how this, if I didn't do this, then it wasn't Christmas. If I don't do this, it's not worship.
Yeah.
That's what you talked about a lot in the series we did, He Greater Than Tradition. Like Jesus is greater than these things.
I don't know if you remember me saying this. I mean, you remember everything I say in my sermons.
Everything.
Yeah. But I was talking a few weeks ago about how, it's okay to have preferences. Mm-hmm. Like we have preference. I have preferences of how Boggy Talk goes. I mean, not really actually, but I have preferences. But if we're a church member and we really are like, hey, I like this kind of music and it must be this way. Well, the Bible says love does not insist on its own way or in its own way. So it's actually not loving when we say it must be the way I like it.
Right.
And I would say in my home too, like in my family. So I think about Christmas and moving forward. And I believe, Lord willing, we're going to have some kids in ministry and we're probably going to be spread out. So the odds are it's going to be very challenging for us to get together on Christmas. Now, in my heart, would the greatest thing for me to be for all my kids and all my, crazy amount of grandkids I'm probably going to have be get together on Christmas Day? Oh, yes.
Of course, yeah.
But it's probably not going to happen.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And how rude would I be to say, hey, to each of my children, hey, instead of figuring out what's best for your family and instead of focusing on serving the Lord, you got to do what I want because I'm your dad and I'm your mom. And I think a lot of people are like that about the holidays. Yeah. And I just think that's so sad because it's not Christ-centered, Right. And I think like even families, who are just like, I just wonder how many of our Christians even think about the holidays as opportunities for the gospel. Like, I love that so many of our church members help out with our Thanksgiving outreach meal, but like, how many people are like, no, I'm with family, no, I'm with Christmas Eve. No, we're the family. Like, we're not inviting our lost friends to Christmas Eve. Easter even, like, that's just crazy to me that like Easter's about the resurrection of Jesus. And so many people are like, so many people would come to church with you on Easter. And it's like, we just got to remember like kingdom first, like, so, I mean, for our family, it might be, look, Christmas is a phone call, and we do some we'll figure out a way. If I love my family enough, we'll figure out a way.
Yeah, you will be together.
I might have to, work it, be 70 bagging groceries to have money to pay for a family vacation, but I'll figure it out. No, there's anything wrong with that, just to be sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the point is that let everything we do right now in this season, but also every tradition, no matter the season, let it be to point to the greater reality and truth of Jesus Christ, His kingdom come, His will be done. I do.
So you might be rocking around the Christmas tree, or you might have a silent night.
You might
without your kids.
That's right.
But either way,
and you might not get a hippopotamus for Christmas.
You might not. But let every heart prepare him room.
But I did want to suggest to you, though, a new tradition for your family. Because I did some research on some crazy traditions, and there's
Church on Bayshore Christmas Eve.
All right. So in Iceland, there is the Jólakturinn, which is the tradition of the Christmas cat.
That's to my family specifically?
Yeah, I think,
okay.
and this is actually kind of morbid, but according to legends, the Christmas or Yule cat is a monstrously huge black cat that only appears on Christmas Eve when little children are sound asleep, dreaming of the glitter of the Christmas tree and what marvelous gifts lie underneath it. Unfortunately, if there are no colorful new clothes among these gifts, the innocent little ones, instead of feasting on the Christmas banquet next day, will become feasted on by the Yule cat.
That's just a justification that you can have clothes. You need clothes for Christmas.
that is a legend, in a Christmas legend in Iceland. The Christmas cat will eat your kids if you don't get them colorful clothes.
You know what my least favorite thing is about Christmas?
Cats.
Here we go. We're kind of getting off. Is I hate, and I mean that word, hate, when parents are like, if you don't behave, you're not going to get anything for Christmas. You're going to be on Santa's naughty list. Like, dude, no, you just behave because I'm your dad and your mom. Like, you're not, like, why are you being like that? Why are you manipulating them over Christmas? You know, it usually, and just to be clear, it usually results in brattier kids when you act like that.
Because then they will just make sure they'll still act the same way, but they'll be different when you're around.
Yeah.
And
but you could use the cat for justification with clothes. There's also Krampus who just kills you.
Isn't that crazy?
If you're a bad kid.
Like, how do these things, I want to know how
that's German. That's like legit Christmas.
German, yeah. Who also ironically gave us, our tradition of Christmas trees and lights on a Christmas tree, which allegedly
we got fat and jolly Christmas Santa that gives you whatever you want because we're Americans. But Krampus, it's like, dude, you're going to get killed.
Interestingly enough, I didn't realize this, that when the Puritans came over, that they were actually very much against Christmas trees. And William Bradford, one of the Pilgrim's second governor, called Christmas trees a pagan mockery. And preachers, Oliver Cromwell, actually preached against it because he didn't want anything to do with it. And so when you say, hey, we want to just get back to the roots, all right, so get rid of your Christmas tree because that's what they wanted. So,
well, I mean, there are those who, are definitely in that. Yeah.
So, anyway, so if you want that to be your tradition, go for it.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe if you have the right heart. So anyway, we hope that you do really experience just the awesome love and power of Jesus in your traditions this year. But, hold all traditions loosely and hold tight to Jesus.
Amen.
Amen. Well, we hope you do have a Merry Christmas. Hey, join us on Christmas Eve. We have Christmas Eve services. If you're here in this area, we would love to invite you at 4 o'clock, 5:15, and 6:30. And if you're not in this area, you need to go be a part of a Christmas Eve service. If your church doesn't have one, you should ask your leaders, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
And
be a part of a church that people are inviting people into
Christmas
their lives.
Eve, yeah. One of the worst church services I ever went to was a Christmas Eve service, and not here, but it was just terrible because it was everything was just sentimental. Like it was like nothing about Jesus. It felt like a talent show, and they just sang like "I'll Be Home for Christmas" and the Christmas song, chestnuts roasting. And I was like, where's Jesus and all this? So don't go to a Christmas Eve service like that. Go to one that's all about Jesus and invite someone to go with you, whether that's here or where you are. Be missional and intentional. Let that be your tradition. That is a tradition that is good.
Amen.
Well, have a Merry Christmas celebration this week, and we look forward to being with you in the new year.
2022.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.